Yeah, it's Tales from the Jails here with John G. Sutton. Still talking about the escape from HMP Wandsworth by Daniel Khalife, or Khalifi, who escaped underneath a truck delivering goodies to the prison for the prison cookhouse, and he was working there. And the thing is, when I was in the prison service, I know we're casting our mind back a little bit here, but the prison kitchens were run by prison officers, cook and bakers, who actually ran the whole lot. They were trained cooks and bakers. Staff that I knew who worked in the kitchens had been in the catering corps in the army, and left the catering corps in the army to come to work in the prison system, and they were, after the basic training, transferred straight into the kitchens and worked as prison officers in the kitchens, preparing the meals for the entire place. 1,500, 2,000 inmates at a time, preparing all the meals, massive things. But I've been used to doing this, having worked within the army system and the regiments. But now I'd refer you back to a documentary I was in 1979, in which I said that what the prison service is doing is they're downgrading all the jobs. So that all the jobs that the prison staff were doing then, they were doing the courts, we were doing the productions to courts, we were staffing the courts, we were running the hospital service inside the prisons, we were running the works department, we had engineers, they had hospital staff were prison officers, the engineers were prison officers, the cook and bakers, they were prison officers, all the staff at the courts and the production staff, the escorting staff, all prison officers, all established prison officers, fully trained. And now what do we have? We have private security firms running the courts. We have civilians running the kitchens. We have the NHS running the hospital service. We have external contractors running the maintenance of the prison, the engineers in other words. And what are the prison officers doing? Plodding the landings with a set of keys. I kid you not. And I said this in 1979. I said, all we've got to do is look at what the plans are for the prison service, and it will not be too long before all the prison staff are little more than glorified turnkeys, which is exactly where they are now. I've seen arguments as to why this man was allowed to escape. Well, argument number one, the people who were running the kitchens were not prison staff. They're not trained as prison officers. They're not alert to the dangers of potential escapes, nor are they maintaining good order and discipline, because that's not what they're there for. They're there to prepare the meals. That's it. And that's what they do. The security is run by discipline officers who are attached to the kitchen. This really downgrades the job of prison officer to little more than what used to be in my time auxiliary staff. They're little more than that, carrying a uniform and a big hat. It's disgraceful, really. And, of course, we had the problems from 2008, 2009, when the government, in its wisdom, enforced a thing called austerity. So the prison service lost approximately £1 billion in funding, and approximately 4,000 prison staff along the way went, not replaced. All they did was extend the overtime and allow the staff to work. You see, there's a plan there, you see. There's a think tank behind all this, a psychological and financial think tank. What we'll do is we'll reduce the staff, so we don't have to pay as much in wages, whilst at the same time we'll increase the overtime. But because we're not increasing the wages, the difference will quickly become in our favour, so that the people are working longer hours for what amounts to the same amount of money. That's what they're doing. And who has allowed that to happen? You can't blame anybody but the prison staff. They've allowed that to happen. The right way for the prison service representatives, the POA or whatever they call themselves these days, that are representing the prison officers, they should just say our staff aren't working overtime. No. And if the government had got any sense, they'd pay the staff properly and put them on reduced hours, so that they've got people who are there, they're alert, they want to keep the job because it's a good job. If they put them on, say, 20 hours a week or 14 days on, 14 days off, as I previously suggested, then it's going to become a good job if they're getting paid $50,000 a year. But at the moment, if they're getting paid $30,000 a year and they're having to work all the hours that God sends, then it becomes the kind of work that you get out of. And people are just walking away from it. You saw that with Wandsworth, where only 7 people turned up for a night shift. I mean, what kind of a carry-on is that? Don't they realise that they've lost control? And they've lost control of the discipline. They've lost control of the security. It won't be too long before they're losing total control of the prison systems. And HMP Wandsworth is just the start of it. It'll kick off in all the big old Victorian jails, because they'll see this and think, well, we're next, So you'll have places like Armley Jail, Walton Jail, Wormwood Scrubs, Pentonville, Parkhurst, all the lot. They're all going to come crumbling down, because they're all old Victorian dumps. They're not fit for purpose. And we hear the prisons minister, what's his name, Chalk is his name, saying that they're going to build half a dozen new prisons. Half a dozen new prisons, and fill them up with people who are not paying the television licenses or failing to pay fines because they haven't got any money. Because the crisis in the cost of living is such that they have to use the money to look after the families, which is what people do. The whole thing is a damn disgrace, and I believe that this is the start of a wake-up call. If you look back at my things, I said some time ago that this issue with the prison system is going to require a catalyst to actually kick it off. And the government needs to start thinking now, not just putting their heads in the sand and standing up talking bollocks about, we've got it under control, we're going to recruit an extra 4,000 prison officers, we're building 6 prisons. They're not going to do it. And it's no good recruiting 4,000 or 5,000 teenage girls, is it? I mean, what are they setting up? They're not setting up a prison service, are they? And they're not paying enough money to attract the right calibre of staff, I don't believe, anyway. And the staff that they are getting will not work the hours that they're proposing them to work. Anyway, that's a song there, folks. Yeah. I see that Hebden Goat, which is a company in Yorkshire that makes cheese from goat's milk, has shut down. I know it's upsetting Larry, don't worry. You've still got your goat. Billy Goat Gruff. Yeah. And you're welcome to keep him, mate. It ain't no to do with me. I thought I'd read you a poem today, seeing as we're heading towards this. It's by John Keats. It's To Autumn. And we're quickly heading there, as you've probably seen. Seasons of mist and mellow fruitfulness, close bosom friend of the maturing sun, conspiring with him how to load and bless with fruit the vines that round the thatch eaves run, to bend with apples the mossed cottage trees, and fill all fruit with white ripeness to the core, to swell the gourd and plump their hazel shells with a sweet kernel, to set budding more and still more later flowers for the bees, until they think warm days will never cease, for summer has o'erbrimmed them with their clammy cells. That's the first verse of To Autumn by John Keats. Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. Don't forget to like and subscribe and get my book, folks.